In this next part of our tutorial, we are going to write our name in bubble letters. That way we can extrude and do some filleting, chamfering, and do some cutting. And then we'll revolve an exclamation point at the end of our name. I'm going to write my name a couple of ways and then move on to the exclamation point. That way you guys can get a sense of what I mean by bubble letters and how we can draw those. So I'm going to create a new document. This will be my name. We'll click OK. And what I'm looking for from you guys is not so much a dimensioned lettering system, but you should be able to put in your full name. Now, I just need 2 letters. If you go by a nickname like DJ or AJ or JJ or whatever, or you just want to use your initials, then that's great. I'm going to use Mr. White, and we'll go from there. So I have line selected, and I'm going to create an M. Now to make that a bubble letter, I will go sort of parallel to that, and then once I see that orange dot and square and click on that, then that'll be an enclosed space, and I know that I could extrude that later. To make an R, I'll do some lines again. It doesn't have to look pretty, and then I kind of want to do a curve. So we'll do a start point, a stop point. We'll hit that. We'll do a start point, a stop point. We'll hit that, and then we'll finish that off with a line again, just so we can close off that shape. And it grays out, and I can move on to my little period. And then I want to move over. Actually, I won't worry about that yet. We'll do a W. It's an upside down M. Shouldn't be too hard. Now I'm zooming out and zooming in with 2 fingers on my touchpad. And that is how I have found to move. It's not like I can scroll like I want to in other programs. Moving on to the H. Let's hit some curves in there. Let's finish that off. Now I have 2 spaces. I can leave it like this, and that'll be totally fine. Or I could trim this off. Where's my trim button? My trim got hidden because I used extend previously. We'll move on, and then we'll move on to our eye. We'll call that a good eye. If we want to make this a little bit faster, we'll do a T like this. We'll trim it up. I'm going to leave those 2 lines just to show you what I mean by that being fine. We'll do an E. Some lines. And now I can do some trimming. And it will start looking like an E. And there's the name. And now now this is something that I can extrude. To extrude, I need to complete the sketch. To complete the sketch, I hit this green check mark. And now this is something I can manipulate in the 3D CAD space. So I have extrude here, I have revolve, I have sweep, I have loft. We're not going to worry so much about really any of these except for extrude. Revolve, Fillet, and Chamfer. I'm going to make this into an isometric view. I'm going to click Extrude, and now I can click all of my letters. And extrude them out into 3D space. Now with this T here, I can hit all of these and it would complete a 3D space. With this E, I need to be careful not to hit this inside, otherwise I would get something that would fill in that E. And now I can change the depth at which I'm extruding. I can make this 1/2 inch with 1/2. I can make it 3/4 of an inch. I can use 0.75. Or I can make this 100 inches. And it looks just wonky, so I'll do 0.5. That's a pretty good size. And we'll finish that off. It gives them fun, different colors for each one, and that'll just be dependent on the number of letters that you have in your name. So I'm going to name this name 1, and then I'm going to do a different option. I'm going to do a different name, and so that you can look at different letter options. So we'll save this. That'll save automatically. We'll go back to Onshape. We will create a new document. We'll call it name 2. And what's a good name? My daughter's name is Adalaide. That has letters that are not in Mr. White. You have an A, a D, an L, and then those repeat, so that's fun. So if we want to do an A, we've got an uppercase A. And then we can make a triangle with a polygon. Except I want to rotate this around. How would I do that? You know, looks kind of wonky cool like that. Let's keep it. Then we have a D. We can use 2 concentric circles. The rectangle, that's a D. Trim the fat. The lowercase a would be very similar. Except instead of a rectangle, we can just add a little tail. Looks more like a Q. Don't at me, bro. L. Another A. And this is sort of why I wanted to do this name. We can, if we have multiple of the same letters, we can click and drag, select a letter, control copy, and we can paste that, click that. So now we can select and move it around. Now we haven't dimensioned any of this, which means as we move it, features will change as well. We'll move on to the I. Just make that like that. We have another D, so I'll copy and paste that. You'll notice that I have also selected that. So we will copy, we'll paste it, delete all this stuff, we'll select it, and then we will drag it down and it'll be wonky. So I'll just delete all that to make things easier. We'll do another circle. We will remake that line, and then we will trim the difference. And then we have another E. We'll make it different this time. So, I'm not looking for a great artistic ability, just looking for you getting the concept of how to enclose a shape, because that is super important for the type of work that we'll be doing. If you can't enclose a shape, then we can't really make parts and then assemble them later. So we'll finish the sketch, we'll extrude all these out. We'll say that's 1 inch. That's awesome. Now we need to work on making these parts separate, different. So we're going to add a fillet to the first one. And you can be the judge of how well you want to do this. You can just do a couple of corners or edges, and that's perfectly fine. I just want to see fillets on the first shape, and then I want to see chamfers, which is the second selection up there. Gosh, these touchpads are not great. Looks like we have an issue there. So we will change the size of that to 0.1. And that looks better. So we have a fillet, a curved edge on the A chamfered edge, which means an angle sliced off on the second letter. And now we can work on the exclamation point. To do that, we need a work surface. To make a work plane in the middle of this, we have to do it a little bit differently than you would have done it in Autodesk Inventor. So if you know how to do it there, then forget that, and we will do it a different way here. So we will click on the front of our name after we have clicked on plane. So we click on plane, we click on the front of our letters. Doesn't matter which one, I could have used that D. I just used this one just for fun. Now I know that the extrusion of these letters is 1 inch, and so if I want it to be halfway in between that, I want it to be 0.5 inches. Now this here is the work plane that I'm creating, and I want to put that slicing our letters in the middle there. In order to do that, I'm going to click on these opposite arrow directions, click the check mark, and I now have a work plane that I can sketch an exclamation point on. Let's go through that again. I am in isometric view. I have my plane out here, so I'm going to click on sketch. I'm going to click on plane 1, which I have just created. Click on the front of my view cube. I'm going to zoom out, zoom back in, that way I have space to work with, and create an exclamation point. There are a couple ways to create an exclamation point. My favorite way is doing an arc and a dot, and then drawing a line up from our circle. That way I can trim all of this stuff can extend this line and then trim the other half. And this is something I can revolve around. When we think of revolve, think about a cylinder, like a Pringles can or a soda can, anything like that is something that you would revolve, or you would extrude a circle. Another way that we can do a rectangle, another way that we can do an exclamation point is with a rectangle, and we'll just draw some lines. We don't need all those lines, so we will trim that off. Alright, we'll complete this sketch and then we'll show you what a revolve looks like. So very much the same way as an extrude. Instead of clicking on the extrude feature, we are going to click on the revolve feature. We're going to click on the profiles, the features that we want to revolve, and then we're going to click on the axis. This is going to pop up in red as soon as it recognizes that we want to rotate something. So after I click on the red box, it is now blue. I can click on a revolve axis and it will preview my revolved exclamation point. And click OK, and it's awesome. Where did my other example go? If I go to Sketch 2, I can right click and I can show this. I can also click on this hide invisible so I can see my second example again, and I can revolve this the same way that I revolved the other exclamation point. Now I need to click on this red box that says revolve axis. Now it's blue, and now I have another exclamation point. Now I only want one of these exclamation points, so I can come over to this feature pane and click on one of these, doesn't matter which, and then I can delete it. And then obviously go back to the hide and show and solve that. So now I have something that I could turn in. Now how do I go ahead and turn that in? I'm going to accept just one way of doing this, just to make things easier and more uniform. We're going to go to the bottom here. We have an assembly tab and a Part Studio 1 tab, and we want to export this file. We're going to create a file name. You can do Johnny Doe, but we want this format to be in a step file. Most of industry that I've seen works in step files. Either that or SolidWorks or a Parasolid file. Parasolid file. But we're going to do a step file. Then we just download it. And then it will go to our download folder if we check that out. Johnny Doe, save it. And that shows in our folder as a step file, and then that's something that we can turn in to the Canvas assignment.